This is Christine. She went to the GP as she's been feeling lethargic, has puffy eyes, and a bulge on her neck. The blood test showed that she had an elevated TSH level and low T4 and T3. These results confirmed a diagnosis of hypothyroidism.
But what does this mean?
To understand this diagnosis, we need to understand the endocrine system, which consists of organs and glands that help to maintain the body's homeostasis through hormonal control. They interact with one another to control major processes and metabolic functions of the body. Let's take a closer look at the organs and glands that are relevant in Christine's diagnosis. The thyroid is found in the anterior neck, on the trachea, inferior to the larynx. Additionally, the pituitary gland and hypothalamus are located at the base of the brain. The thyroid is made of two lateral lobes and is joined in the middle by the isthmus. The thyroid gland consists of many spherical follicles surrounded by follicular cells that produce a glycoprotein called thyroglobulin. Thyroglobulin is stored in the colloid and it contains the amino acid tyrosine, which is essential for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. The synthesis of thyroid hormones involves the following steps. Iodide ions are absorbed from the diet and travel through the blood to the thyroid gland. Here, the iodide ions enter the cytoplasm of the follicle cells. A sequence of reactions occur in the colloid so that the iodine attaches to the tyrosine part of the thyroglobulin to form the thyroglobulin colloid. The hormone thyroxine, or T4, contains 4 iodide ions, whereas triiodothyronine, or T3, contains 3 iodide ions. When these hormones need to be released into circulation, they are endocytosed and combined with a lysosome enzyme which cleaves the T4 and T3 from the thyroglobulin colloid, allowing the hormones to diffuse into the bloodstream. Thyroid hormone T3 and T4 affect nearly every cell in the body by binding to target cell receptors and are important for normal growth, development and metabolism. However, the regulation of T3 and T4 synthesis and release is controlled by 2 other very important hormones, thyroid stimulating hormone TSH and thyrotropin regulating hormone TRH. TSH is released from the anterior pituitary gland and TRH is released from the hypothalamus. Together, the hypothalamus, anterior pituitary gland, thyroid gland, and their associated hormones work together in the thyroid feedback system to regulate the blood levels of thyroid hormone. The hypothalamus secretes TRH, which travels to the anterior pituitary via portal veins. The TRH binds to its specific receptors and triggers the release of TSH from the thyrotropic cells of the anterior pituitary. TSH travels to the thyroid gland and binds to its specific receptors on the follicular cells. This binding causes a rise in T3 and T4 levels in the blood in 2 ways. 1, by stimulating the release of stored thyroid hormone, and 2, by triggering the synthesis of more thyroglobulin colloid. When the level of thyroid hormone in the blood increases, this inhibits the release of TSH by acting on both the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary in a negative feedback mechanism. When this negative feedback system is functioning, homeostatic control is achieved.
But what happens if this is disrupted?
Disturbances to regular homeostasis occur with both over and underactivity of the thyroid gland. When the thyroid gland is not producing enough thyroid hormone to maintain regular function, it is called hypothyroidism. Causes include Hashimoto's disease, thyroid surgery, treatments such as radioiodine therapy, and insufficient levels of dietary iodine. In the case of Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disease, antibodies destroy the thyroid tissue, leading to a loss of function. This results in decreased T3 and T4 and increased TSH production. In other cases, follicular cells produce enough colloid but are unable to make functional hormones. As we now know, thyroglobulin, produced by the follicular cells, requires iodine to form a colloid. In an individual with insufficient dietary iodine, there is a reduced level of circulating iodine for the thyroglobulin to bind with. The result is less T3 and T4 are able to be synthesized. This triggers the anterior pituitary to release more compensatory TSH, thus stimulating the thyroid to synthesize more and more unusable thyroglobulin. This is why there is an elevated level of TSH and a low level of T4. Having an excess of unusable thyroglobulin and a deficiency of T3 and T4 results in the endocrine system being unable to perform a number of key functions such as temperature regulation and metabolism. The signs and symptoms are vast, non-specific, and include low metabolic rate, feeling chilled, constipation, thick dry skin, puffy eyes, edema, lethargy, mental sluggishness, weight gain, goiter, and changes in voice. These symptoms clinically affect nearly every major organ of the body. Therefore, when the body state of homeostasis is disturbed, there are significant effects for the individual and the optimal functioning of their body systems.